Yo, what's up guys? Welcome into the channel. My name is Gabriel and I like to enjoy things, and today we are enjoying the new Commander deck, Miracle Worker from Duskmourn House of Horror. So we are gonna go ahead and open up the deck on the channel here, and I'm gonna show you everything that's inside of it, and then we're going to take a quick cut while I sleeve up the deck, and then we're gonna do a tour of the contents of the deck, and we're going to talk about the mechanics and the synergies and just our general thoughts and a wrap up. So stick around and let's get into it. All right, and just jumping right in, we are going to open this guy up and see what's inside of it. Ooh, I don't know if there's a good way to open these. Hope we didn't want to save the box. We didn't. Millennials, stop saving your boxes. You know, unless they're old Nintendo boxes or something. Then you want to keep them. All right, and inside you get the deck itself, of course, including the commander. You get a little instruction booklet of some kind. It tells you a little bit about Aminatu Veil Piercer. I'll spread that out so that if you want to pause it and take a read, you can. Tells you a little bit about her and a little bit about playing the deck, and then it also shows the special rules for Archenemy. This deck does include Archenemy cards, and then it also includes commander rules. So take a pause on that if you want it. Also comes with some more of these locked tokens for your rooms, which I think are really helpful. And it looks like we have a white, blue, and black token, which is nice. Let's pull this out, and actually I want to go ahead and punch these out. Boop, boop, boop. And this is just a display. Oh, and there's some little shiny tokens here on the side. Can always use some extra +1/+1 counters. My kids never have their counters or whatever it is they need. These look like stun counters. Always nice. Of course, lifelink encounters. Gotta have some lifelink. And if this deck doesn't have lifelink, then maybe we'll put some in it. I don't know. But usually they come with the kind of counters you need. So I'm gonna set these to the side for now. And then, yes, our collector booster sample pack. They are enticing you to purchase a collector booster, of course. We'll open that in just a moment. And what else is in here? Oh, yes. What the professor at Tolarian Community College always says is generously called a deck box. This thing is basically trash because once you've sleeved the cards, you can't barely fit but about half of them in there. And I believe these are going to be the Archenemy cards. They are, in fact. I don't currently have any oversized sleeves, so I am not going to open them at this time. But maybe later on I'll do a little YouTube short and we can check them out. Let's crack open this collector booster. See if we got any good pulls. Oh, that was easy to open. Usually the collector boosters have a very thick foil. There's more where that came from. Ooh, we got a room. It is a rare room, Dazzling Theater and Prop Room. On one side, creature spells you cast have Convoke, and on the other side, untap each creature you control during each other player's untap step. Wow, that's pretty powerful, especially for tapping creatures to activate our commander or some other such thing. And we got a foil, uncommon, Optimistic Scavenger. It has an eerie trigger when an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. I don't know why I said activate our commander, because she does not really have a tap ability. But I believe there are some creatures you can tap to draw a card. So we can be drawing on other people's turns, so that would actually come in very handy in that situation. Let's just open this guy up here. And here is the deck itself in all its glory with the foil commander. Look at that, she's gorgeous. and then the other 99. So we are going to cut here. I'm going to sleeve up the deck, and then when we get back, we'll talk about the contents. All right, guys, we're back. I've got them all sleeved in Dragon Shield resealable inners and Dragon Shield matte outers. White because that's just one of the ones that I had left over, and white is one of the colors in the deck. So here are the commander and the backup commander. First of all, most important, these are the foils that come in the box. So here's Aminatou. She's a legendary creature human wizard, and at the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 2, and then each card in your hand that is an enchantment has miracle, and its miracle cost is equal to its mana cost, reduced by 4 generic. So this is a really powerful commander, and especially with the way this deck is set up, because Miracle lets you play things on other people's turn in addition to your turn, so you can play things essentially at instant speed, which are normally at sorcery speed. So enchantments. I mean, we're just talking about enchantments here, but it is so great, and this whole deck is set up around flashing in those enchantments on our opponent's turn. And then here's the backup commander, the Master of Keys. It is X generic and a white, blue, and black, flying, and when it enters, put X+1/+1 counters on it, and mill twice X cards. Each enchantment card in your graveyard has escape, and the escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost, plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. So this is a great backup, or even when your commander's out on the board, you know, maybe you have extra enchantments, or people are busted your enchantments off the board with removal, and then you're bringing them back. So he's a great include. Plus he is an enchantment creature, so he'd cost 4 less generic to cast if you cast him at instant speed on your turn or on somebody else's turn. So you could get that 4 mana discount on the X, which is amazing. So first let's talk about the mana base, and then we'll move on to talking about the instants and the creatures and the sorceries, and then lastly we'll talk about all the enchantments and enchantment creatures, which both work. I think this deck has a great mana base. It's got all of your commander staples in it. So there's a Terramorphic Expanse, Command Tower, and then there's a lot of different dual lands. So there's like a Pain land cycle in here. So that's like the white-blue. There's the white-black Pain land. This is a really powerful land for this deck specifically. So for 1 white and a generic, you can tap it and put an enchantment card from your graveyard on top of your library. So you can tutor it out of your graveyard onto your library, and then on like your opponent's turn, you can cast it at that instant speed using Aminatou. It's wonderful. They also have the Scry land cycle in here, which I'm not sure how useful it is. I love Scry in this deck because you're always wanting to do that top deck manipulation. But generally you're surveilling on every upkeep. So if you play a land for turn, then you are not really getting that much benefit out of a Scry, but still it's great. I mean, we love to see Scry in this kind of deck. Oh, there's another one of the Pains. And then there is the white, blue, black land. And then this is just another generic mana, or sorry, not generic, but colorless mana. And it's got land cycling, so you can go and search for a basic if you want. Then there's the ones that kind of act like the signets, where you pay 1 and you get 2. This is great just as a little graveyard removal in case you come up against somebody who you're really struggling against because they're playing a lot of graveyard recursion. Just exile their graveyard with this guy, and it doesn't burn up one of your cards out of your 100 since it's a land. There's another one of those signet style lands, and then Evolving Wilds, which is just like Terramorphic Expanse. And then this is just kind of like a Scry. I don't know why it doesn't just say Scry, but it's slightly different. This lets you also search for a basic, another signet style. So, I mean, all these lands, I mean, they're just the staples. These are kind of like in the jump starts where you choose a color and then you get the color it says in addition to the color. And then looks like 5 each of the other basics, 4 or 5. So great mana base for this deck. Honestly, I think it's really good for what they're trying to do. Next up is just the instants and sorceries. So they got some good targeted removal in here. I mean, Swords to Plowshares, you're playing white, you need to play Swords to Plowshares. And then there's some different card draw stuff like Telling Time, where you're looking at the top of your library and then putting those cards in hand and on the bottom of your library and on top of your library. Here's an exile card for enchantments. You can get 2 for 1 out of it basically for 4 mana. Arcane Denial, Great counterspell in general, but especially great counterspell for this deck because it lets you draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So say you go and then player 2 goes and they play something you don't like, or player 3 plays something you don't like. You go ahead and counter that. And yes, they will get to draw 2 on the next player's upkeep, but you'll also get to draw 2 on player 4's upkeep or player 3's upkeep, whatever turn you've played it on. Or even your own turn, you play an Arcane Denial, then on player 2's you get to do it. Yeah, you get it. But getting to draw that card on the next turn, you've probably already done that top deck manipulation with your Surveils and your Scries, so you know there's an enchantment coming up. So you're already going to be ready to cast that for its miracle cost using Amanatu's ability. So that is just a really perfect include for a deck like this. Brainstorm, love to see it. Surveilling and Surveilling with Flashback. Draw 3 cards and discard them unless you discard an enchantment card. So you could get an enchantment in your graveyard if you'd prefer, and then keep the other 2. It's up to you. Just a straight up exile card. Nice to see. Ink Shield. Standout instant here. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to you this turn. And for each 1 damage that would be prevented this way, create a 2/1 white and black Inkling token creature with flying. So this could be like a win con for you. You know, you block some damage at instant speed, then on the next turn you're hammering with a bunch of flying Inkling creatures. This deck actually kind of lacks in win cons a little bit. It has flying creatures as one of its main win cons. So let's look at the sorceries. You have Ponder, same kind of deal. You're drawing cards. Portent, drawing cards. Diabolic Vision, you look at the top 5 of your library, put 1 of them in your hand and the rest on top of the library in any order. So this helps you with that top deck manipulation as well. Scry 2, draw 2, lose 2 life. Return all enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is great. It's a sorcery, but it does have a miracle cost, so you can get that top deck manipulation, know it's coming up, play it, then get a smorgasbord of enchantments that people have been removing on you. This is also great. You don't really want to pay it. It's double X cost, but it is set up for a miracle, and this whole deck is about miracling things out, so this is just the perfect include here. Like I said, flying creature seems to be one of the main win cons here, so you're going to pull out a whole bunch of 4/4 white angel creatures and then hammer them on the next turn. Put all creatures on the bottom of their owners' libraries. I mean, you love to see that. It's just a board wipe and it doesn't affect your enchantments, so it's good stuff. This is a crazy card here, Amanatu's Augury. So exile the top 8 cards of your library and you may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield, and until end of turn for each non-land card type, you may cast a spell of that type from among the exiled cards without paying its mana cost. So free card play. And then time wipe. Return a creature you control to its owner's hand, then destroy all creatures. So you have one creature you really like, bring it back, kill all the other creatures, play it again. It's nice. It's nice when they're overrunning you that you have some control in there. And then before we get to the enchantments, I forgot to mention with the lands, we have all the artifacts like normal. So you got the Arcane Signet, you got Soul Ring, Azorius Signet, Brainstone. This is good because you can manipulate your top deck. Burnished Heart, I think this one can go in a substitution. It's not that great, but you're getting 2 lands. You know, maybe it's useful. It's useful when it's useful, and when it's not, it's annoying to have in your hand. Command Sphere, of course. Mind Stone, this is great because you can tap it and sack it on other people's turns, draw that card that you've already scried or, surveilled up. So you get those enchantments to play, Warzov Signet, and Solemn Simulacrum. I actually like this one here. It's 4 mana, 2/2, but you can use them as a chump blocker, and when he dies, you can draw a card, and you've already manipulated that top deck. So once again, you chump block, he dies, then you're flashing in those enchantments at that discounted cost. So really good in this deck, I think. And then here's all the non-enchantment creatures. So I think this one can also go in a substitution. Aromancer, when she enters, you may return an enchantment from your graveyard to your hand. But for the most part, I'd rather have them on top of the library or, coming up on other people's turns. But, it's not a bad include. Moonblessed Cleric, you can search your library. You basically tutor up an enchantment and put it on top of the library. So this is the perfect creature for this deck. 4/4 lifelink, and when it enters, return a target creature from a graveyard to the battlefield with a lifelink counter on it. It also has a miracle cost. That's the main reason it's included here. It is a bit expensive, but you know, you're manipulating your deck and you're playing in this lifelink creature when somebody attacks you, and then you block, gain some life. This one I actually will probably substitute out. It's 4 mana, and you can either Believe or Doubt. Believe lets you put in a 2/2 black horror enchantment creature token, and Doubt lets you at your end step return an online permanent you control to your hand, and if you do, draw a card. So I don't know, it's all right. Mesa Enchantress. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you may draw a card. That's really nice. Enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, also great, and plus he's going to get huge because every time an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard, you're putting +1/+1 counters on him, and people are going to be trying to get rid of your enchantments, so kind of helps you out either way. This one's just a first strike, and you can look at the top card at any time, and if an opponent has more lands, then you can play it. I'll probably substitute this one out. I mean, it's a good card, but maybe not perfect for what we're doing. It's okay. This is a flash flying creature, and when it enters, surveil 4. So this is actually great, and you can return an online permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. So this is actually really nice. I mean, there's a reason it's a mythic, because you're getting a 2-for-1. You're flashing it in, and you're returning one of their creatures, and you're blocking something and killing it probably, and you're surveilling 4. So that's really nice. Just a 3/5 flyer, and then if you discard it, he gains hexproof and tap it. When he attacks, you scry 3. It's okay for top deck manipulation, but that one might also be a substitute for me. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, you may create a token that's a copy of it. Do this only once each turn. This is killer. You want this creature here. You want to be making copies of your enchantments. You're getting a lot of extra value. Plus, there's enchantments that make copies. So if you're making a copy of that, and then you're making 2 copies of enchantments, suddenly it's, I wouldn't say it's busted, but it is a great include in this deck. All right, and on to the meat of the deck. It's all enchantments and enchantment creatures. So you got rooms, you got sagas, any one of these you can flash in with the miracle. So cast out, flash, when it enters, exile a non-land permanent, until it leaves the battlefield. Creatures can't attack you, and planewalkers can't attack you unless they play X for each for each enchantment you control. I mean, that's crazy, because you're going to have a lot of enchantments, and they can't afford to pay all that. You'll be untouchable until they kill that enchantment. Creatures you control have flying, and the creatures your opponents control lose flying and can't have or gain flying. This really plays into the win con of the Flying Angels, and as I can see it right now, it really is one of the only win cons, plus another couple big creatures that are in here, but big enchantment creatures. Another room. I think when you flash it in, you should flash it in for the bigger side, just because you get the discount. But basically all the non-land permanents are enchantments in addition to their other types, so it'll pump certain things depending on what they are. And whenever you cast an enchantment, put a +1/+1 counter equal to that spell's mana value on up to 1 target creature. Also wonderful for this deck. Soaring Lightbringer, it's an enchantment creature. It's a bird glimmer. Other enchantment creatures you control have flying. So this one gave your creature's enchantment status, so the ones that are non-enchantments already, so they're going to get flying, and whenever you attack a player, you create a 1/1 glimmer that is already tapped and attacking, so you really get, and it's whenever you attack a player, not when this creature attacks a player, so it really helps out with that flying creature win con. This is flying 6/6 with Eerie, and for 5/6, you can flash in a 6/6, basically for 2 mana, 1 and a blue, because of Amanatu's ability. And it having Eerie, when another enchantment you control enters, or when you unlock a room, tap up to 1 other target creature and put a stun counter on it. And stun counters can't be removed from permanents your opponents control. That is crazy busted. I mean, you're locking down creatures with this thing. And Ancient Cellar Spawn, it's a little expensive, but each spell you cast as a demon, horror, or nightmare costs 1 less to cast. And when you cast a spell, it's the amount of mana spent to cast it, less than its mana value. Target opponent loses life equal to the difference. So, not bad. Another enchantment. I like this side because it deals 6 damage to a target creature, but I believe this is the one that you're going to want to use the miracle cost on, because it's 5 and 2 black, so kind of expensive. And once during each of your turns, you may cast a spell from your hand by paying life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. This could be really great for getting out an extra enchantment that's in your hand that'll help combo, like if you have something that lets you surveil twice in a turn if you do 2 enchantments, or you're getting +1/+1 counters for enchantments, or all these different reasons that you may want to play more than 1 enchantment a turn. Being able to pay life for it is really great, and it also doesn't limit you so much, so that when you want to use up your mana, you can still do something. And it's once per turn, no, during each of your turns, so not during other opponent's turn, but that's okay. Monologue tax, whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you create a treasure token. It's okay. I mean, treasure is good if you need the mana. We'll see how it plays when I'm actually playing the deck. It may be a remove for me. Sigil of the Empty Throne, 3 and a white, and whenever you cast an enchantment spell, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. That's crazy. I mean, you're going to be getting so many angels if they don't remove it. And since it's not an immediate threat, they may not remove it right away, so you may get 2, 3, 4 angels out of that. You may cast Timely Ward as though it had flash if it targets a commander, enchant creature, and it gets indestructible. Sure, I mean, that really helps. Let's protect Aminatou. Wish it gave hexproof. Maybe we can add something in that gives hexproof in here. As far as I know, there's nothing that gives hexproof right now. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of another target non-land permanent you control. This is busted for this deck. I mean, it is perfect. And it's 4, so you're basically playing it for 2 blue. So you are creating copies of enchantment. You could even... Oh, it has to be another target non-land permanent you control, so it couldn't be this one. So you can't really start doubling it out. But even so, I mean, this is really good. Plus, or you could do it on like your angel one. Now you're creating double the angels, or really any of them. I mean, what else we got in here? The creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays X. I mean, then they're paying double X. All kinds of stuff like that. I mean, we could go through all the combos, but I don't think that's necessary. You can have this enter as a copy of an enchantment on the battlefield. Another great add. It's kind of cheap, but I mean, a copy of any of our enchantments is rad right now. One with the multiverse, 6 and 2 blue, way too expensive. It's a mythic. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library, and once during each of your turns, you may cast a spell from your hand or top of your library without paying its mana cost. So if you have this, plus the one that lets you pay life, you could play one for free, pay one paying life, and play one paying with mana. I mean, getting 3 enchantments out on one turn if you have enough cards in your hand, of course. But this is pretty sick card. Shark Typhoon. This is a great ad. I'm so glad it's here. When you cast it on creature spell, create an XX blue shark creature token with flying, where X is the spell's mana value. More of our win con with flying. It does have a cycling. We're never cycling this card. Don't you dare. Nobody cycle this card. What's wrong with you? We need it. You need to play it. When you cycle, you can create an X, but don't do that. Do it this way. We want to do that. We want it as an enchantment. Thanks for coming to my non-cycling TED Talk. This is another just huge creature, and it's an enchantment creature, so you can just play it for 3 black. He's not a creature until you control 3 or more permanents you don't own. But at the beginning of your end step, exile the bottom card of each opponent's library. So all 3 of your opponent's library face down. And for as long as those cards remain exiled, you may look at them and you may cast them, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast them. So I guess that's how you get the spells that aren't yours, is by casting their spells. I don't really know how it's theirs if it's yours, but I'm not going to quibble about the text. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Please correct me down in the comments if I don't really understand how it works, but basically you get 3 cards from your opponents, you cast them all, and then you now own 3 cards that you don't own, or you control 3 cards that you don't own, and now it's a 9/9 creature and you can attack with it. Normally it's just an enchantment. Flying Trample for 4 and 2 black, so you're flashing this in for just 2 black. Once during each of your turns, you may cast an enchantment spell by paying life, another life cost, and then for 3, you can sack another enchantment and give him +X +0 till end of turn. So maybe you punch through with him for 6, their life's at 10, you sack an enchantment and deal lethal damage with them. Nice little combat trick you can do there. This is crazy for 4 and a black, so just a black if you're using Amanatu Constellation. So when he or another enchantment control enters, target opponents get -1/-1 until end of turn. So you play this, maybe you use your free enchantment to play another enchantment, and then maybe you pay life to play a third enchantment. Now they're getting -3/-3 until end of turn. So, I mean, it's a great way to board wipe a bunch of opponent creatures but not affect your creatures. Flying for 2 and 2 black. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature except it's 1/1 and a nightmare in addition to its other type. So a lot of great value there, a lot of fun things you can do with that. Legendary enchantment creature God. It's a 4/7 for 4 and a white-black. So just a white-black for our purposes. It's indestructible, and as long as your devotion to white and black is less than 7, it isn't a creature. At the beginning of your end step, put a coin counter on another target creature. Whenever a creature with a coin counter on it dies or is put into exile, return that card into the battlefield under your control. That's crazy. So another target creatures, you can target their creatures. And then you could even use that -1/-1 ability to kill their creature and return it to your control. I mean, that's really great. Life insurance, whenever a non-token creature dies, you lose 1 life and create a treasure token, but it also has the extort, so you can pay mana to gain life. It's okay. Probably a substitute for me, but we'll see how it plays, because we may need the mana from the treasure tokens that this generates. Not sure. And then finally, the enchantment here, Spirit Sister's Call. At the beginning of your end step, choose target permanent card in your graveyard. You may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with the chosen card. If you do, return the chosen card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it gains, if this permanent would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. That's cool. I basically read what it did, but that's cool. So all in all, I think this is a crazy deck. Oh, and here's the tokens. If you care about the tokens, it comes with angels, glimmers, treasures, glimmer, copies, of course, copies, shark tokens, horror tokens, inkling tokens, scarecrows. I think this is the only one that I didn't see a scarecrow card for in the deck. But yeah, every token that's mentioned, you got one for it. And I think they do that with most of the decks. So anyway, that's it for Miracle Worker. We opened it up, we sleeved it up, we toured all the cards. I think it's a really great deck. I think it's the most fun of all of the Duskmourn decks. Maybe not the most powerful. It's definitely not the most expensive. At the time of recording this video, it is a $35 to $40 deck. I paid $40, a little bit of a markup, I think, but I mean, I like supporting my LGS, and they had it, so I grabbed it. And I think you should support your LGS too, but I also agree with the professor that you shouldn't pay inflated prices for these decks. So, you know, I think the group slug one is like $80 right now, and I don't think it's worth it. But I mean, if you want to play it, then I guess it is worth it. But anyway, I enjoy things. Thanks for enjoying things with me, and we'll catch you with the next thing that we decide to do on the channel. Hit me in the comments if you want me to change anything or talk about anything specific, or if you have any tips. And I love hearing from you guys. So talk to you later.